This episode is dedicated to the memory of Judy Stevens.
Hey, this is Debbie Combs. Give me back my pro wrestling.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South. And I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card. Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at stevebowtiebryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I am here, as always, with my brother from the same father and mother, the Plastic Sheik, Jared Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How about yourself?
Man, you know how it is, brother. Just, got a lot of stuff going on in our lives at this moment. But right now, unfortunately, we have lost our beloved aunt, Judy. And, to call her an aunt when we really haven't called her Aunt Judy in a long time. We've called her Mama forever, It's kind of weird. But to kind of give you all the idea of this lady was our mom's oldest sister of 7 sisters. She was the oldest. And so the distance between them could really, be like a mother and a daughter, And so she was basically, our aunt that we hung around with the most. We saw her the most because we lived in the same town of Lebanon, Virginia. And, our favorite uncle, Duel, of course, was her husband. And so also she is the grandmother of our little brother, Mason Mitchell, who is our cousin, but also our little brother. It's a long story, but it's not incestuous or anything. It's just the way we treat it. You know how it is. So anyway, she passed away the other day, unfortunately, at the age of 83. And, to say that it has been a hard way to go and hard, for all of us, it's definitely not been something that we, expected or wanted. And, I just, I know she's in heaven, there's no question about that. I know she's in heaven. And so we just want to appreciate who she was to us. And we've received so many kind words and text messages and Facebook messages and just all these very nice things, so we thank you all for doing that. That means the world to us. So, if you can, just keep our family in your prayers for these next little bit, because, we're unfortunately, we lost one of our very best.
Absolutely, brother. It's tough. You said it, like a grandmother, like losing a grandparent. It's very much like that. We were very close, vacation with them all the time growing up. So they were always there. If we went out to a restaurant on a Saturday night, they were there growing up. So it's a very close relationship. That's sometimes I was thinking the other day, sometimes you just think that people in your life just are never going to die, right? And unfortunately, it comes for us all. So
it does.
Doesn't make it any easier, but it's going to happen. So treasure your moments with the people you love while they're here.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it better, So this episode is dedicated to her memory, and this is an awesome episode, Sheik. And I don't know if you're going to go get tacos or what. But yeah, we've got an episode today with Debbie Combs, the legendary lady superstar, daughter of Cora Combs. And, you know, she's had a great history. I mean, she wrestled for all the companies that you could wrestle for, you know, the Poffos and WWF, WCW, NWA. She's a former NWA women's champion. She wrestled for Leia Maivia out in Hawaii. I mean, there's so many cool things that she can talk about. And yeah, we're excited to have her on, and we'll have fun with it for sure, you know. So,
yeah, man. So I've got a work commitment that's not going to allow me to for the interview, but it is what it is. Even when you're work for yourself, you sometimes have to be there when you don't want to be. So
right, that's probably, you work harder probably when it's for yourself, I would assume. You know, so it's like, I hate my boss. Oh wait, no, I don't.
Sometimes he's a jerk. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but Debbie's awesome, and I can't wait to get her on. And thanks to Shane Morton for hooking this up. But mostly, this is actually this is dropping the May the 9th, right? And that is, our normal Thursday. But 2 days later, we're going to actually be hanging out with a lot of our former guests. So we are going to be spending the day in Columbia, Tennessee. What better place to be when you're a wrestling podcast in Columbia? There's no better wrestling town on the map, in my opinion, than Columbia, Tennessee. They love it and they care about it, and they still believe, and that's what matters. So we're going to be there. It's the Muletown Mania Fan Fest, and so basically the day is going to be a long day for us. At 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there's the Right Way reunion, which includes all the wrestlers from near and far from that area, and this is something that Shane's been putting on for the past 6 years or whatever. And this one will be a blast. And this was the first one I've been able to come to. And also with us is going to be you, of course, the Sheik. We're going to have our little brother Mason with us, and we're going to have my son Cash with us. So it's going to be a day of it. Now, Cash and Mason are going to have to help us with the podcast, which is one of the main reasons is, of course, there's the reunion, and then starts the Fan Fest after that. And at 2:30, it opens up. People can come in, get autographs, shake hands, take pictures with I think it's like more than 50 wrestling legends from that area, and new wrestlers, old wrestlers, young wrestlers, wrestlers you don't like, wrestlers you love. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then at 4:30 on May the 11th, that's Saturday, May the 11th, we're going to do a live podcast Q&A with the Devil's Disciples, Dante, Mephisto, and Damien Forsaken, whatever, Rick Reynolds, whatever you want to call it. The Wild Boys, Ben Jordan and Steve Neely, and the Mortons, Shane and Steve Morton. So the tie-in for most of you all, if you don't know out there, is that these teams were in a decades-long blood feud with one another. And the word blood does not, let me just say that, this is a real blood feud. And these guys fought each other tooth and nail. I mean, literally beat on each other for decades. So anyway, we're going to focus on that. And then later that night, I know you've heard us talk about it, but it's TriStar Wrestling, and that's our buddy Jablonski, and he's going to have the 14-person tag match with, Jared, there's so many of our former guests. Dante and Mephisto in it. It's going to be Steve Neely, Ben Jordan is in it. Scott Spade's in it. Rick Reynolds is in it. Shane, Steve, so many people. So anyway, it's going to be a big day.
Good time.
Yeah. Y'all should definitely come on out. I know it's 2 days ahead of time, but if you haven't heard it on here already, then you don't have any excuse. So anyway, long story short, Muletown Mania Fan Fest. If you want to meet any of the wrestlers that you've heard on this podcast, or if you just want to come by and for some reason want to meet us, we'll be there, and you should too. So come on out and see us. And I say, let's shut up and I'll come back with Debbie Combs. How's that sound?
Sounds good, brother.
All right. Well, you come back at the very end. All right. We'll figure that out.
Can I get the hot tag at the end?
Yeah, you'll get the hot tag at the end.
The Robert Gibson tag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be right back after these messages with Debbie Combs.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis. We're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
All right, we are back with Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, and man, oh man, as always, we've got an awesome guest today. And I tell you, when I look into stuff and I start doing my research, that's really when you can tell the level of guest that you're going to get. And I just couldn't stop finding stuff about this guest today, so I'm going to shut up now and bring her on. The absolute very special guest, Debbie Combs. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Now, did I take you away from any of your bounty hunting duties? That's awesome.
No, not today.
Okay.
Not today. My partner's busy today, so we're not allowed to go out without, you have to have two people. So my partner's kind of busy today.
Okay. Well, when did you start doing that?
About 7 years ago. I retired from the Davidson County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
And then I had to do something that was just as interesting as wrestling. So bounty hunting is as close as wrestling as you can get.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So it was basically a pretty easy swap from careers in wrestling to bounty hunting, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
That's wild. Well, I know we've had guests on that could have been bounty hunters and should have been bounty hunters, but I think you're technically our first official bounty hunter. So that's very cool. I mean, so you got to give you credit for that.
It's fun. I've been shot at. It's interesting. I've been knocked out.
Wow.
It's been fun.
I love that you say that and then you add fun to the end of it. That's awesome. That's great.
It's as closest to professional wrestling as you could get. So, yeah. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. So,
right.
So we always start off every show with this question, and this one is going to be a little different than the normal one. To kind of give an idea to the listeners and give us an idea of how, the choices you make on this question, kind of lets the listener know a little more about you. And we always started off with, mostly men, unfortunately. We've had one other woman on this show, and it's a shame. We need to have more. But when it comes down to it, your Mount Rushmore of ladies wrestlers, who would you put on that Mount Rushmore?
My mother, Cora Combs.
Okay, I love it. Who else would you put?
Penny Banner.
Penny Banner, okay.
Mildred Burke.
Mildred Burke, yeah.
There's so many. Back in Billy Wolf days, all the true legends come out of Billy Wolf's camp out of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And that's, I wouldn't put Moolah on there because I don't know. She started out as a slave girl and, up for the old Vince McMahon. And I wasn't one of her girls. So,
Yeah, no, and I've heard crazy stuff. I mean, I know there was a dark side of the ring about Mola, but that was some pretty crazy stuff. So did your mom guide you away from her perchance, or?
I she never really guided me towards Moolah because probably the stories of Moolah is true, and I didn't have to go into that camp because, I wasn't going to give Moolah 75% of my pay.
Oh, man. Yeah.
To work for her and live on her land because she took most of them girls as money.
Right.
And I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I got myself booked, and them girls could have done the same thing, but she had them brainwashed. So,
Gotcha.
I just didn't have that.
Yeah. No, and that's actually very good that you didn't go down that path. You had a stellar career. So let me start at the very beginning. Now, obviously, you are a second generation superstar. Your mom, Cora Combs, is one of the absolute pioneers of the business as far as women's wrestling or wrestling goes. Talk about growing up. Your younger days, growing up with a mom who is the name that she was, the legend that she was. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, she was a legend, and I was a little girl. I was in the dressing room, and I would sell her pictures when at the matches when she was on the shows, and Ricky Morton and I would compete on selling pictures, and and I heard stories that when I was a little girl, and the boys would watch me back in the dressing rooms while she was, wrestling. So, there's Dick the Bruiser, would watch me, and, there's all kinds of stories, and in wrestling, they taught Carney. And, so we was on a trip going up to like Lexington, Kentucky, and they were talking Carney, and I was trying to nod my mother because I was real jealous. And she said, "What do you want?" And because they had been talking Carney.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, "You missed your exit way back there to Lexington." I was trying to tell her that y'all had missed your exit,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, "I don't know why y'all talking Carney because I can understand everything y'all are saying." Because I had been around them, all my life. I'd learned to talk Carney or understand it. So
sure.
It was just, I understood it. So, little things like that, just growing up around the business and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, I can imagine, like when a little kid, you're wanting to protect him and stuff, and you start to, let's go, do not talk about sex or spell out a curse word, but instead you're actually learning how to speak Carney at the same time as they're trying to hide what they're saying from you. That's awesome.
Right.
Now, where were you born?
I was born at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. My dad was in the military. He retired from the Army.
Okay.
And I had one brother, and my dad got stationed over in Germany in World War II. So my brother was born in Augsburg, Germany. And then they got transferred back over, and Dad was stationed at Fort Campbell. So I was born at Fort Campbell.
Gotcha. Okay. And now, did he have anything to do with wrestling, or was it solely your mom?
No, he never traveled with my mother and never had much to do with wrestling with my mother. But when I started wrestling, and he would travel with me.
Oh, okay.
When I had road trips around here, he would travel with me.
Okay. Kind of like a little bit of protector, maybe, like keep an eye on you, make sure you're okay. Is that kind of the deal?
No, not really. He just loved traveling with me and being me.
Yeah.
Because he knew I could protect myself, but he was just for support.
Yeah. Now, would you say you were a daddy's girl?
Yeah. Later on in years, I was my daddy's girl. He was closer to my brother when I was younger. But then later on, in later years, I was a daddy's girl.
Well, where did you go to high school at?
I went to high school here in Nashville at Stratford High School.
Stratford High. Okay, very cool. Yeah. Did you play any sports while you were in high school?
No, I started wrestling when I was 15 years old.
Yeah, so that kind of cut all. Well, so that is a sport. So technically you did. It just wasn't through the high school.
Right. So I started wrestling. My first match was in Louisville, Kentucky,
Yes.
At Louisville Gardens. And one of the girls, it was a 7-girl battle royal, and one of the girls didn't show up, so they threw my ass in there, and I was scared to death. I was just petrified. But they threw me in there, and there I was, and then it hit, and it was in my blood, and that's the start of my career in wrestling.
Then it's over with, right? Once you get it in your blood.
Yes, it is over.
Yeah, it's over.
They literally had to push me out of the dressing room, though, in Louisville.
Really?
Yeah, because I was scared to death. I was real shy, and I was really shy. So they ended up pushing me out of the dressing room, and all the girls got behind me and pushed me to the ring.
Oh, so. Did your mom train you to get it to work, or did she?
I was really around it all my life, and I would get in the ring, and when they would get in the ring and practice and train and all that. So I just kind of learned it along the way.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So I learned it by getting in the ring with them. And so I just picked it up all my life. You would get in there and play around with them.
Yeah. Okay. So it was almost like you just knew it from the womb almost. It was like you were just born into it. That makes sense. And so that first promotion, if I'm not mistaken, for your first match is one of my favorite topics. We recently had George Weingroff on the show, and I could talk ICW all day long. I guess before we get into the question I'm going to ask you about here in just a second when it comes to ICW, talk about getting into ICW, the Poffos, that kind of thing. And then we'll approach that subject that I'm definitely going to ask you about.
Right. Well, why I was in ICW. I don't have to tell you why that was.
Okay, so that was yeah, got it. That makes sense. So when did that start? When did that romance start?
Well, Randy was down here for Nick Goulas, and then I think what happened was the Poffos was wanting to know probably where they needed to move to get a promotion going.
Okay.
And they were all discussing where to go. And I said, well, how about Lexington?
Yeah.
And that's where they ended up moving to, because I think it was in transition of going from Goulas to Jarrett.
Yeah.
In that time zone.
Okay.
And I think that's where I know that's where they ended up moving. Well, Randy and I had started seeing each other right before they moved.
Okay.
And that's how it blossomed. And then, we started dating. And so we ended up going together in 5.5 years.
Yeah. So this is the $20 million question here. What is it like to date the Macho Man?
it was wonderful for me. He was just very jealous.
Oh.
He was very jealous. And that's the only thing that I can say bad about Randy. A lot of people can say a lot of bad things about Randy. Randy never, threatened to hit me. Randy never, he did have a temper, but he never had a temper with me.
Gotcha. Okay.
I never seen no anger towards me. I never, I don't have any bad things to say about Randy. He was a good partner. All but the jealousy,
Yeah. And that's something that stayed with him. It's well known he was very jealous of Liz. Also with that gorgeous George girl, he had some problems that he was very jealous of. And, maybe that was just a thing that he had. But do you have any idea maybe where that came from? Was it something to do with his family life maybe that turned him that way, or?
Why he was jealous?
Yeah.
I think probably just the insecurities.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense.
I think he was just insecure with himself, maybe. And I don't understand why why he was. But, there's there's several reasons why people are insecure with themselves.
Of course.
I don't know why it would be.
Yeah.
But I never gave him a reason to be insecure. But, you know, you just, sometimes you are, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I mean, he'd lost his dream, you know, with baseball.
I'm going to tell you one reason, though. I was a jealous person, too, when I started dating Randy.
Okay.
But I guarantee you that that sure corrected me from being a jealous person after that.
It taught you, you're like, this is not a good look. I don't want to be like this. Yeah.
And I tell you one thing that could have made him insecure, the pro football, the pro baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, his grandfather, you know, about burning down the clubhouse, you know.
Right. Yeah, it's an amazing story. Just talking about his baseball time. Randy's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and I'm sure that's a common thing with most everyone you've probably talked to about this. He was such a legendary figure in the business, but you know, when it comes down to it, he was a real man, and he did have those insecurities. And it's sad to say, because you think of him as the Macho Man. I mean, he's you know, that kind of guy, and
right.
Yeah, kind of crazy. But the baseball, it's a crazy story, and I know a little bit of it, where he basically blew out his shoulder. It was a righty, and then he taught himself to throw lefty and kept himself in the game, and that's just crazy. I mean, I look like a sissy throwing with my left hand. You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah.
Well, he loved baseball. He did. He loved baseball, and that was his dream.
Yeah.
You know. But, you know, Randy succeeded at anything that he did. But, you know, then he got into the wrestling, and that was his dream, you know. But, you know, Randy didn't, you know, he didn't talk like that at home. You know, he didn't live that life at home.
Right.
Everybody wants to think that he did, but he didn't.
Yeah.
You know, Randy was a normal person.
Right.
You know, everybody, you know, they might think that he did, and the girls might say that he did, but he did not do that with me.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And this is a personal question, so please, you don't have to answer this, but what do you think led to the breakup?
Me?
Yeah, with him, yeah.
Oh, well, I told Randy to never, ever bring a girl to a show that all the other boys would see.
Okay, right.
And basically, they had a show in Cape Girardeau. The next night, we were in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
At the Gardens. And it was him and his dad, Angelo, and she was the ticket seller in Cape Girardeau.
Okay.
Now, she was a big, heavy-set girl, and I understood that she was the ticket seller, but I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, right.
And they all three of them walked into the St. Louis. And when they did, I said, I am finished.
Yeah.
And I told him right there in front of everybody, we are finished.
Yeah.
And he blew his top right. And that's the only time that he really got upset with me.
Okay.
And I said, I'm finished with you. I'm over. It's over. And so he got upset. I was upset. And King Kong, Brody, said, get your shit and come into my dressing room. And I went into his dressing room, and you know, of course, Randy wasn't going to interfere with it.
Right.
So I was in that dressing room, and so that was it.
That's it. Okay. Well, I mean, sound like he had his chance to not do something stupid, and unfortunately he messed that up. But yeah.
But I'm going to be honest with you, Randy was my true love.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Maybe the one that got away.
We were soulmates.
Okay.
His mother always told me that.
Yeah.
But we were soulmates, and it's not like I didn't have another chance with Randy.
Okay.
After him and Liz divorced, we were at a bar here in Nashville, and me and my mother, we were at the bar, and I told Mother, I said, and we were all drinking together, Randy and all of us, and I said, come on, we're leaving. And so we left, and all of a sudden there was a car flying up behind us, and I pulled over. I said, who in the hell is this following us? And it was Randy.
Oh, wow.
And I pulled over, and I said, what are you doing? You following me home? And he said, no, I'm trying to get back to the Red Roof Inn. I said, which one? And he said, at Rivergate. And I said, well, you're going the wrong way. And I said, I'll lead you back to the interstate, and then I'll get off, and you need to go straight. And
okay.
So I did. I got him back. But he was letting me know where he was staying.
Sure, right. If you want to drop by.
Yeah, right. So, but I just went back home.
Yeah.
That was my mistake.
Well, and so you regretted that, essentially.
I did.
Yeah. Well, did you get along with the Lanny as well?
Oh, I talked to Lanny up until his death.
Yeah, it was such a sad time when he passed away, because he'd kind of helped cement the legacy of Randy back with the WWE, and then he loses his life. It was sad, very tragic. When anybody passes, it's tragic. But I heard that George has told stories several times to me about how Lanny really was kind of under their thumb. Do you see that too?
Under WWF?
No, under his dad and Randy's thumb in a way, especially in ICW. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He idolized Randy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so when was that? What year was that you had your first match with ICW?
Lord have mercy. I don't even have any idea.
Would it be like 75 or 76, something like that, maybe? Or
no, because I started wrestling in 75.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Well, I just know that there's a bit of a time between that and 86 when you make it up to the WWF. I guess talk a little bit about that middle time between the ICW and WWF.
Like when I started in WWF?
Yeah.
Well, Moolah called and wanted me to get into WWF.
Okay.
And she wanted me to go up there and work with her.
Okay.
And that was a mistake on her part. she made a mistake there, because when I went up there, I told Vince and all of them about the way she was treating her girls.
Yeah.
The way that she was not giving them the money and all of that. So that broke that all wide open.
Wow.
So
okay.
I'm the one who did that. And so the girls started getting their own checks and all that. But then when I got up there, I did the circuit with Moolah first.
Yeah.
And then I started working some of the other girls and stuff. So, it was nice and stuff. And, I ended up running into Randy too with Elizabeth up there. And, and there was one day in Columbus, Ohio that, Randy had said, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, yeah. And I was back up against the concrete wall. I remember it. And he said, you're making my life a Peyton place. And I just looked at him in his eye, and he hit the wall. And I just scooted down up underneath his arm, and I just walked away.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why he was saying that, because, I stayed away from him.
Sure, yeah.
But that's the only time that he ever really said anything to me about being up there in WWF.
Okay.
But he still had feelings. You could tell that he had feelings.
Right.
And, even though that he was with Elizabeth.
Right.
But as far as working in WWF, I loved it. I loved working with the girls. I had a good run up there, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They wanted to drop the belt on me with Moolah, and Moolah told me that I better not take that belt and run, because they Madison Square Garden. And I was a nervous wreck in Madison Square Garden. I mean, I was a basket case.
Tell me about that.
Oh God, I was like throwing up. You know, 'cause that's the biggest, you know, arena, you know, that you could work.
Amen. Yeah, that's the place.
My mother always told me, you always respect the older women, you know, the pioneers, the older women.
Right.
And you know, even though she was moolah and I really did not respect her, my mother always told me, you respect the older women or older girls in the business.
Right.
So, you know, so they had come in the dressing room. They told us what we needed to do and all that. So, and then when they walked out, Pat Patterson, when he walked out, Moolah looked at me and she said, you better not do it. So, I mean, you know, well, here's the booker and here's her. You know, do not take that belt and run. So I just didn't.
Yeah. You were up there during the time of that Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. Was there ever any talk about, hey, Debbie Combs, let's bring you on the show? Did they ever maybe talk about, because I know Wendy was focused on, and then I know there was some things about Wendy winning the title and then Moolah taking it off of her like the original Montreal screw job. But did they ever talk to you about anything like that, endorsements or action figures or anything like that?
No, I mean, if they did talk about it, I was never in on that talk. I know I was supposed to be on WrestleMania 10.
Okay.
And Medusa refused to wrestle me.
Really? Well, I want to get to that because I know you all actually worked together before that. But so I guess let's pause that for just a second. I want to get into Sherry Martel though, because you worked with her when you were up there, correct?
I worked with Sherry up there and different. Sherry Martel was the last match that I had before I retired.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, Sherry to me is one of the greats, man. I mean, you know, she's one of the greatest managers. I think she's highly underrated when it comes to manager talk. And, you know, she turned her career around. Did you by chance see that Dark Side of the Ring about her?
No, I did not get to see it.
Well, when you can, it's on YouTube. You can watch it on there. I highly recommend it. It's heartbreaking because there's a moment where she has a baby and she basically chooses to go on the road because I guess she knew her future had to be where it had to be. And that just brings up such a crazy thought in my mind. When I saw that, you know, I was like, golly, these ladies gave up so much to entertain us. No, and some women, and please don't take this the wrong way, but some women do not feel complete without a child, right? You know, so I know that has to be something that is heavy on the women that are performing at that time. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I've never been married and never had no children. So, you know, but Sherry did have a relationship with her son.
Right. And she would bring him on the road and stuff. But I guess, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe she would. But that just shows you how much she knew she had to do the wrestling, you know, and had to, you know, and that was her calling. And, you know, it's almost like when you're talking to a minister or something and they're like, I got the calling to go into preaching and stuff. It's like she had the calling. She knew what she had to do. And that it was heartbreaking in one sense. But then again, you know, she did build a relationship with him. So, I think that it kind of ended on a positive note. But it just opened my eyes to some of the things that, you know, let's just say the normal people in the world that didn't get in the wrestling business could do. And it wasn't necessarily an option for a lot of the women, you know, it was.
Well, I just think that when it gets into your blood that, you know, you have that in your blood and you just don't want to give it up. You know, Sherry tried to get out of it several times and it just didn't work for her.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to get out of wrestling. I mean, it was really hard for me in 2000. I mean, it's not easy to walk away from wrestling.
Right.
You know, it's not an easy choice to do. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy feat by no means.
Right. You get withdrawals and everything. And I did a little bit, and I'm not claiming any kind of actually anything close to you or many of our guests. I did a small time in the Nashville wrestling scene working for Tony Falk and TJ Weatherby and Burt Prentice. And I was a manager, local heel manager there. And, it got into my blood even at that small level. You know what I mean? And I'm forever addicted to it now because not only as a mark, as a fan growing up, I actually got that injection of the crowd and the whole thing. And so it's like, I do understand. I think that's part of the reason I continue with these podcasts now is because it gives me the opportunity to learn from those that came before me. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah. So if someone were to ask you a simple question of like, hey, Debbie, describe Sherry to me in like 10 words or so, what would you say if you could describe Sherry? What would it be?
A wonderful person, a fantastic worker, great personality, fun to be around.
Yeah.
She was such a joy, and would bring a smile on anybody's face. I remember one time we was out at the Cauliflower Alley Club, and we were in, it was in Studio City when we was out in California. And she said, "Come on, Debbie, we're gonna go down to Hollywood." And so we got dressed. Sherry was crazy as hell.
Yeah.
And a partier. She partied.
Yeah.
And we went into this bar. I don't know what the hell she got my ass into. And she always just laughed at everything. We walked into this place, and I'm telling you, in one room they were doing all kinds of drugs. This next room they were and we just kept on walking, and she just laughing and grinning. You could just see her face right now.
Yeah.
And we just partied, and just got drunk. And man, I remember the ride home over them hills back to Studio City at the Hotel Sportsman's Lodge. It was just funny as hell. They were doing all kinds of stuff in that damn club. It was great. Well, she can introduce you to everything.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Saturday, May the 11th, 2024, the biggest pro wrestling event in Columbia, Tennessee's history. Muletown Mania Fan Fest. Over 50 wrestlers from the past and present going to be there for the meet and greet from 2:30 to 5:30. Also that night, TriStar Wrestling has a huge card already signed. Doors open at 6 for that. Bell time will be 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it. A huge card already signed. Also, Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling will be in the house that night doing a Q&A with the Devils, the Wild Boys, and the Mortons from 4:30 to 5:30. Also, you have Cave. They're your toy collectibles and wrestle memorabilia dealers. They're going to be in the house. Also, we've got the Devil's Disciples. Mephisto and Dante will be there. The Wild Boys, Ben Jordan and Steve Neely. The Monster, Forsaken. The Falks, Tony Falk and LT Falk. The Morton Brothers, Steve and Shane Morton. The Smoking Buds, Cody and David Morton. Jerry Lynn and Virginia Morton. Hot Rod Biggs. Jeff the Crippler Daniels and Dominique will be there. Debbie Combs, Lady Superstar. Sunny Street will be in the house. Luscious Quentin Charisma. One half of Booty Call, Brian Turner. Mad Max. Cowboy Billy Montana, Scott Spade and Mistress Misery, Superstar Mikey Dunn, Devious G, Johnny Bandana and Ryder Anderson, The New Era, Tavon Jordan, D'Amico Graves, the one and only Majestic, Mr. Entertainment, Yukon Jack, yours truly, Pat Dooley, DJ R, Danny Pig, The Voice, Kane D, Pretty Boy Preston Adams, plus many, many more. The meet and greet will be $15 if you buy your ticket in advance, $20 at the door. TriStar Wrestling that night, $10 if you buy your ticket in advance, $12 if you buy it at the door. This is a huge night, Saturday night, May the 11th, 2024, in Columbia, Tennessee, at the National Guard Armory at 844 North James Campbell Boulevard. It's going to be the place to be for the best wrestling action around. Come and meet some of your local stars, some of your favorite people, some of your least favorite. People from your past and present, this is going to be an opportunity that you're not going to want to miss. This is going to be well worth the price of admission alone just for the meet and greet. And then TriStar Wrestling that night, biggest wrestling event ever signed in Columbia, Tennessee.
So you end up becoming NWA Women's Champion is it in a battle royal in Honolulu, and then something happens, and then you actually win it again in Kansas City, but it was like you didn't actually lose it. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, there was some controversy. I won it in the battle royal in Honolulu under Maya Mavea.
Okay, Leah Maivia.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Evidently, they didn't really recognize her as an NWA promoter, and then Harley Race was promoting Kansas City, so he said, "Well, we'll have a match, and we'll, and he was an NWA promoter, and so they had a match there, and they did the match there."
That's cool. Now, how does that feel? I mean, how did that feel at the time, being the NWA Women's Champion? I mean, that means a lot, right?
Oh, yeah. It meant a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about Harley Race. I would love to hear something about how you working with Harley.
Oh, Harley. I mean, I loved Harley. I mean, he was a wholesome guy. I mean, a family man. I mean, he was one of the best champions that NWA could, he was a great worker. I mean, very few wrestlers could go an hour. But Harley Race was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you could grab a hoe and sell it forever.
Yeah.
And that's one person that me and Sherry Martel in Toronto, Canada, we had went an hour. Because the flight was delayed in Toronto, so we ended up having to go an hour. Very few workers can do that, but Harley Race was a tremendous person, husband, father,
champion.
He was the best NWA champion that they had.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's who I think of when you put that 10 pounds of gold in front of my eyes. I think of Harley. That's who.
Right. He was just a perfect, individual, I believe.
Yeah. Well, so you end up going up to Minnesota with Vern in AWA, and then you meet up again with Sherry, and then is this when you kind of start tagging with Medusa at that time in AWA? Yeah. Talk about your going up to AWA.
I mean, I didn't travel up to AWA a lot, but when I did, I usually wrestled with Sherry or Candy, and then I tagged with Medusa up there some. But that just lasted a little while. But I would wrestle with Sherry, and then I would wrestle with Candy.
Okay.
Because Sherry was living down here at one point, and I've had a lot of good times with Sherry. Whenever I start thinking about Sherry, I remember we were in first class going to Minneapolis on Christmas, and drunker and shit we got there. I'm just thinking of her, and then she looking back in Coach and saying, we get almonds instead of y'all getting peanuts, just crazy. Sherry's just crazy.
Yeah.
But Medusa's, we tagged up there a lot more than I don't think I ever wrestled her in Minneapolis.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, of course, that does lead to WWF in 94, Medusa and Alundra. And then is that essentially when she declined to work with you?
Well, they booked us against each other, and we wrestled some.
Right.
And then they booked us for WrestleMania.
Okay.
And that's when she declined. It was booked. They advertised it. There was flyers. I was in the WrestleMania 10 booklet.
Yeah.
And then she come off and did not want to wrestle me in WrestleMania. I mean, and all the advertisement and everything, and they had to replace me with Leilani Kai.
Yeah. Yeah. Who I'm sure you're friends with, right, Leilani?
Oh yeah, I love Leilani.
Yeah.
And she didn't understand why neither. And I still to this day I do not understand why she did that.
That's weird. That's so weird. Is there any chance that she might have thought you would have outshined her by chance? I mean, they were kind of putting it all on her, you know?
Well, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I never did get a reasoning.
That's a hell of a payday that she made you miss. That's unfortunate.
Right.
And have you guys seen each other since then? Have you been cordial, or is it cool, or?
Well, I've not been cordial with her.
I didn't expect you to be, but
no. I don't know if I've seen her since then.
Okay.
You know, and I don't know if I can be cordial with her.
Yeah, understand. And that makes sense. I mean, it's, you know, that's just a hell of a payday and an opportunity, especially. I mean, I can imagine she must have had some sort of stroke to be able to get that to happen, because if they've already advertised you and everything, I can't imagine them wanting, you know, to not have you on the show. But man.
Right. And she cannot deny it.
Right. No, it happened.
Yeah. No, and everybody knows it. Leilani knows it. Everybody knows it. So she can deny it.
Right. Did that put an awkward situation with you and Leilani? I'm sure you're cool about that.
No, it did not. You know, no. I love Leilani. You know, Patty is a wonderful. I can't blame Leilani.
Right, of course. So it brings you back home, and then you start up WPW, Women's Pro Wrestling. You've got ladies such as Candy Devine, Miss Jackie, Peggy Lee Leather, Velvet McIntyre, and so many more. What led you to start your own promotion?
Well, Edward Pastano wanted to start an all-girls promotion.
Okay.
And he was out of California, and so I did, and we started it. And we wanted to run military bases.
Yeah.
And we did run some of them, but, you know, he just didn't want to put enough money in it to really run it.
Right.
Like it's been ran.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I just saw the names and I was like, holy cow, this is the Glow for girls who could really go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But honestly, to be able to, you know, to get a good promotion like, you know, going, you have to have like money like Glow does have.
Right, of course. Exactly. A big time money backer. Yeah.
Right. Like,
did they ever talk to you about going to Glow?
No.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to go to Glow.
Right. Because it was not probably, I mean, your mom being Cora Combs and the ladies who paved the foundation, I never saw any of them at Glow, you know, so it was, yeah, it was its own thing, I guess, right? It was more like a TV show more than anything, right? It wasn't.
Well, well, it was the girls out there wanting to, just a stepping stone to get into movies in Hollywood. It's just like up in, Vern, Gagne one time, he brought in, was it Daisy May? I can't remember. A little blonde with a little Daisy sports. He got her up there, and I had a hell of a match with her. I made her look like she knew everything. It was up in Minneapolis, and he said, "I'm going to book you with her out in L.A. Not L.A. Vegas, where they did ESPN taping."
Yeah,
and. So we went out there, and he's, you know, okay, we'll get out there and make her look good and all this shit. I was not going to get on ESPN and make this girl look like she knew what she was doing.
Right.
I got out there, and I pulled every hair extension out in her head, and I just tore her ass up. Well, she got out of professional wrestling.
Oh wow, okay.
And Vern said, "What the hell, Debbie?" I said, What, Vern? I can't help. But I was not going to get on ESPN and make myself look like a fool.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You had enough sense to know in that situation.
Exactly. Not gonna, it's not me. I've been in this business too long to put somebody like that over.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Well, and I've seen you wrestle all through your career growing up and stuff. And then I remember on Nitro in 1997, you actually worked Akira Hokuto. And I know that they were trying to make a women's division, but unfortunately it doesn't look like you stuck around long. What was the story with that?
I don't know. Eric, he didn't like the women.
Right.
He never was a big fan of the women.
You could tell. Yeah, you could tell. Yeah.
Yeah, he did not like the women's division, and I don't never think that he really wanted that. But I tell you, in that match, I had a broken ankle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had a broken ankle in that match. And if anybody looked real close, you could tell that my ankle was wrapped up. Really tight, and I had like a brace really on that ankle.
Yeah, that's wow. What happened to cause that before you got there? Where did you break your ankle?
Yeah, it was in another match, but I didn't want to cancel that show, so I went in and did it. Because the show must go on.
The show must go on. Exactly. I mean, Kerry Von Erich wrestled without a foot forever. You could do that, right? I mean, you can wrap your ankle and make it work, right? I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah. But like hell, but I did it.
How did you find Akira? How was she to work with?
Oh, she was great.
Yeah. Did she speak English?
Very little.
Yeah, but just enough.
Yeah, very little.
I'm sure you were calling that match, I would assume.
Well, the best I could.
Yeah, right.
Because she didn't understand a lot of English.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But good workers, they know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
You can work around that. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I know that it ended up into 2000 where you retired. Talk about your last match with us, if you don't mind. My
last match was Sherry, and it was in Baltimore, Maryland. And it was, of course, me and Sherry, thumbtacks, glass, nails.
Oh, my God.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was a hardcore match.
Wow.
And that's our match, was the last match up in Baltimore.
Yeah, yeah.
And Sherry did that shit, and so did I.
Yeah, yeah. Did you know going into it that it was going to be your last match?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, who better to do it with than Sherry, right? Especially how much you cared about her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wish that I could get in touch with some of her family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if anybody has any contacts out there, get with Debbie. She'll. Yeah. Well, I do want to kind of lead into some other questions here. So the one question I want to talk about and was kind of one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about today was the current state of women's wrestling. I guess I would love to hear your thoughts on the current status of women's wrestling. What are your thoughts on it right now?
Well, I mean, I don't really, I wish it would kind of go back to some of the old style.
Okay.
Some of these women, I mean, they could not go 30 minutes.
Right.
Much less 60.
Right.
And I don't know if they know Holt.
Right. You can tell. Yeah.
They only know flying.
Right.
And that is not wrestling.
Right. Right.
The old style, but I mean, they're very athletic and they're very high flying, and you've got to give them props. And they're very good at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they brought girl wrestling, up. But you've got to give it to the older generation that we paved the way.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
And the only thing that I've got to say this, that WWE, WWF, whatever, I do not think that they give the older girls, Leilani, Malaya Hosaka, well, I don't know, Penny. Any of the other girls that, the Cena Montagas, any of the girls that work for WWE, WWF, credit and put them in the Hall of Fame up there.
Yeah.
That they deserve to be put in there too. Not just the newer girls or the girls that, we all deserve to be put in there too. We paved the way.
Amen. Yeah, they need to go back to what you were talking about on your Mount Rushmore. Start there and start putting in the legends, like you said, the golden era of women's wrestling, and I mean, the Trishas and the Litas and all that, they're great and talented girls, but at the same time, you can't forget where those girls came from,
Exactly. And it wouldn't hurt to have the golden era.
Right.
It wouldn't hurt to have the older girls in there, and plus, look how many men they put in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they could put the golden era in there of the women, and then they could put their little newer women in there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's years that go by that, like I think the Midnight Express need to be in there, and you actually still have Dennis and Stan. You can put them in there and as a tribute to Bobby and bring Jim in, but there's so many things every year that they miss. I mean, I think they call it a legacy hall where they throw in some of the older, the legends, the like you were talking about, the golden era. But, when it comes down to it, to really have a legitimate Hall of Fame and to really have that be something special, you should go back and put those original folks, the pioneers in,
Right. They have a division up there that they induct the dead. I don't know what they call it.
The Legacy. I think it's called Legacy Hall, I think.
But they inducted my mother, and they didn't even contact me.
Really?
No, they didn't even contact me or even invite me.
Wow. Holy cow.
That was in New Orleans.
Yeah, okay. That's been a while. Yeah. Wow.
And they could have at least acknowledged or notified me that they were going to induct her, or even invited me.
Right. Yeah. No kidding.
I mean, they never did nothing to them.
Yeah, they miss a lot, but that's huge. I can't believe that. That's crazy. I don't even know what to say to that, Debbie. Honestly.
I mean, I've never done nothing to Vince. I mean, I don't know. And that's when he had it.
Right. Yeah. So we do have a thing we like to call quick questions, and it's just quick questions that kind of pick your brain about your life or career in wrestling. Would you like to play the quick question game with me?
We can.
All right. It'll be easy, I promise. We'll be right back. DJ, hit the music. All right, we are back with Debbie Combs and quick questions. And Debbie, the very first one I always like to ask is, what were some of your pre-match routines? Like, what did you do that set you up to go to the ring? Like, what were some of the things that you made sure to have, like chapstick or tape around your, whatever? What were some of the things that were very important to you that you had to have before you went into a match?
My makeup.
Your makeup? Okay.
Yeah. Only one time that I never wore my makeup, and it was in Evansville, Indiana, and I was deathly sick.
Yeah, okay.
But my makeup, I had to have my makeup and my hair done.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, of course. You got to look good, right? That's
and my jacket and all my outfit had to match.
Okay, of course. And you always did great with that too. You had some great ring jackets. Who made those?
My aunt.
Really? Okay. What was her name?
Hazel.
Hazel. All right. Shout out there. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. My other sister.
That's very cool. And did she do that for other girls, or was that just yours?
Just my mama and me.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
And she made some of Randy's robes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool. Any one that sticks out that the listeners might know specifically?
Well, a couple of them Randy and I had that matched.
Okay.
But, I mean, I'm not going to go into that.
I understand. Yeah, no problem. All right. Well, my next question of quick questions is this one is, what were some of your wrestling pet peeves that just annoyed the crap out of you, either today or in the ring when you were back then? What were some of the things that just really got under your skin in the wrestling ring?
Probably if they played the music, if they didn't start it on time, or if maybe that, you know, like if it was like too soon or too late, or, you know, that, or if we didn't know when our match was on. Okay. Like if tell us pet peeves. You know, I don't really, you know.
Yeah, those are good, though. Those are good pet peeves to have. I mean, you know, one of the things that I can't stand, and you would not have dealt with this in your time, but nowadays it's a huge thing, is the telegraphing of moves, where somebody will be running the ropes and they're going to throw a clothesline. The person doesn't duck down far enough, so they end up doing this like scraping their knuckles on the ceiling kind of deal, where they try to miss to not hit the person because they don't duck down enough. You know, I saw a women's match live in Johnson City, Tennessee for WWE, and Charlotte Flair stuck her foot through the ropes, and the girl started running after her foot was already up, rather than Charlotte bringing the foot up right as the girl was there, because it just telegraphed the move. You knew that, if you and I were in a match and I put my fist out, you're not going to run directly into my fist, are you? No. No. So that's one of my pet peeves, and I don't know if you've ever seen any of that where people telegraph too much in the ring. So
that I would do something else.
There you go. Okay, well, the next question is, if you could go back in time, not necessarily if you could just jump in a time machine and go back to when you were starting out, what's some advice you would give yourself about the wrestling business?
Probably have more patience.
Okay.
Have more patience with the girls. Gotcha,
because you kind of got it. You're second generation, and I think it can't go unsaid, and I may have said it already, or you're a second generation, and you were born with it in your blood, right? And so a lot of that, you got to realize maybe some of these girls did not have that. Of course, they're, you know, doing something else, and then they become a wrestler. You know, I could see that you having patience with those. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, but you know, but then also everybody thought that I was that I had it made because I was a second generation. Right. But
sometimes it's harder, right?
It is harder. It is very much harder because I had to prove myself. But yeah, just more patience with the girls, because, you know, sometimes I just wanted them to be perfect.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, and, you know, everybody's just not perfect.
Yeah. So this next one is, if you could wrestle one more match and you had your health and you're perfect the way that you were when you were wrestling, let's say you go back in time and you bring Debbie to now, if you could have one more match with anyone you wrestled ever, and I think I know the answer to this, but you can go ahead and say it, who would it be?
Who would I want to wrestle?
Yeah, one more time. If you had one more opportunity to wrestle, who would it be against? Anybody in your career?
Velvet McIntyre.
Really? That's awesome.
I never wrestled Velvet McIntyre.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit. Yeah.
That's the only one that I think that I've never wrestled.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. And she was awesome too. She had a great career and very good wrestler. So
right.
That would have been fun.
She's the only one that I don't think I've ever wrestled. I think I've wrestled everybody else, but
well, that's yeah. Do you speak with Velvet anymore?
I do.
Yeah. She doing well?
Yes, she's doing very well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. We'll tell her to strap up, get the boots on. We'll get you in a match.
We can't even get her to do public appearances.
Gotcha. Okay. Understand. Yeah. Well, that's her right. So the last quick question I have is this one, and it's personal bucket list. What are some things that you would, and this is personal, not wrestling, or wrestling can be part of it. What are some things that you still have on your bucket list that you would like to do before you wrap it all up at the end?
Oh, there's a bunch of things that I got on my bucket list.
Well, let's hear them.
I'll go to Bora Bora.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go parachuting. You know, my dad was a master jumper.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. He was an 82nd Airborne and 101st.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I want to parachute.
Is that in Bragg? Was he stationed at Bragg for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought so. Yeah.
And then I want to there's a bunch of things. I want to go to Grand Canyon.
Okay.
I want to go to Australia. I've never been to Australia.
Oh, wow. That's actually surprising. I figured you would have made it.
No. I want to let's see. There's just a bunch of shit I want to do that I have never done.
I think we got a good idea, though. You love traveling, apparently. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
I just did a drive out west to Phoenix, Arizona. So that was something, you know, because we always flew in and flew out. So I never did get to drive. So I just drove from Nashville to Phoenix and got to see different sites that I've never got to see before.
Yeah. Jump on 40 and head out there, huh? That's
right. Yeah. Route
that's
44.
awesome. Yeah.
Route 66, I mean.
Yeah.
And I want to do that too with Lori Hurst. We're going to do that one day.
Very cool. Very cool.
And just relax and just travel.
Yeah. See the sights. I love that. There's something very cool about that. So this last question of the show here, this is always one of our favorite questions that we usually ask here, and it goes a little something simple like this. What was your favorite match of all time, or what are some of your favorite matches that you've had?
My matches with Sherry was some of the top. With Malaya Hosaka was some of the top. My roughest matches was probably with Liz Chase. You know, some of them was with Sherry, rough with the tacks and
sure, yeah.
Some of my least favorites was with Medusa.
Oh, understandable, and even more now that we know a little bit about. Right. Yeah.
Some of my favorites was with Donna Day.
Okay.
I've got so many. So many of the girls. I mean, there's so Alani. Judy Martin.
Yeah.
I've wrestled so many. Despina Montagas. There's so many different ones because they wrestle so different.
Right.
There's so many favorites. There's different moves. It's hard to just pinpoint one.
Sure, and that's understandable. Did you ever get to wrestle your mom?
Yes.
You did? How did that go?
Yes. Oh, it's good. I mean,
Right.
It's just
probably couldn't. Yeah, different. Yeah, she's probably one of those you couldn't have a bad match with, though, I would assume. So.
Right.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, Debbie, and again, thank you so much for your history, for your resume. I wanted to give you your flowers by having this episode with you today, so it's greatly appreciated. But you and I are actually going to get to see each other coming up very soon. It's Saturday, May 11th at the Muletown Mania Fan Fest in Columbia, Tennessee, and you're going to be signing autographs, seeing your fans, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Are you excited to show up there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Have a meet and greet.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've been out to see the people like this?
Well, I did a meet and greet in Charlotte last year.
Okay, very cool. Yeah.
And I did a meet and greet down in Murfreesboro a couple of weeks ago.
Right, for my buddy Kroll Saul, USWO. Yep.
Right, yeah. And then I'm going to be down in Columbia. and then we're doing one up in St. Louis in May.
Okay, very cool.
And then we're gonna I'm going down to Texas at the end of May, and the 1st of June, but that's just for the wrestlers.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, but in St. Louis, it's going to be the 18th of May.
Okay.
And that's going to be a lot of wrestlers on that show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I want to try to get up into Lou Thez, because Lou Thez taught me a lot of shoot moves.
Oh, really? Did he? Yeah, that's the shooter right there.
Yeah, he taught me a lot of shoot moves because Lou Thez and I were very, very close.
Oh, okay. We didn't talk about that, but I would love to hear something about Lou.
Yeah. That I was going to mention that when we talk about Harley Race, but Lou and I was very close. So I really want to get into that convention too. But getting back to Muletown. That's because I'm fixing to start doing a lot of the meet and greets.
Very cool. Yeah.
I haven't been doing them at all.
Right.
And I've just started doing them.
Well, that's awesome. I know the people want to see you, and I mean, it's great that you're getting out there and seeing the people, because I know how important you are to so many people. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a big day because we're doing a big live podcast there, and we're going to have a reunion at the start of it. And then at the very end of it, we're going to have a wrestling show with TriStar Wrestling. But it's going to be a big day and a lot of fun. And I really can't wait to see you and officially meet you, Miss Debbie. It'll be a lot of fun.
Well, it's going to be an honor to meet you too, honey.
Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It's truly been an honor to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, honey. I look forward to seeing you.
Yes, ma'am. Can't wait. We'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik after these messages.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at GeneJacksonPod.com.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Well, stop by Captain's Corner, where you can get autographed photos, cards, magazines, and figures from all of your favorite wrestling superstars of the past, present, and future. You'll also be able to participate in live signings in the weeks and months to come. Make sure to stop by Captain's Corner on Facebook and give us a holler. Remember, cheers to the working man.
Hey everyone, this is Shane from Insane Shane's World. I release wrestling figures of enhancement talent, mid-card wrestlers, and wrestlers that you never thought would have a figure available. So if you're interested in adding a really cool and rare figure to your collection, then don't hesitate to contact me at shamtheman73@gmail.com. That's SHAMtheman73@gmail.com. You can also join my Facebook group. Just search Insane Shane's World.
Oh, Sheik, man. Debbie Combs, she is awesome, man. I hate you couldn't be there, brother.
I'm looking forward to listening to it like the rest of our listeners, man. Be glad to check it out. Yeah. I'm sure you knocked it out of the park. You always do a stellar job with questions and guiding the conversation. So,
I mean,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. But man, honestly, Debbie Combs, her career speaks for itself, honestly. So there was really not a lot. I sent you the notes before we knew you had a work deal. I sent you the notes so you could clearly see the level of career she's had. So it's been, it's been nice to be able to talk to her. And man, I mean, she dated Randy Savage. She learned shoot holds from Lou Thez, and she was best friends with Sherry Martel. So wow, that's wow.
That's a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's a Mount Rushmore. And I actually had to ask that question because you weren't here. But anyway,
is it the first time you asked that question?
It's the first time on our podcast I've asked that question. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's since you trademarked it, I can't use it anywhere else. So it's just how it is. If only every other podcast could hear that. But anyway, yeah. But no, man, she's got a cool story, cool career. I mean, just some of the stories she told about Sherry Martel were just awesome. So definitely hope y'all enjoyed that. We definitely appreciate y'all, for listening to all, without you guys, we don't have a podcast. We don't have a reason to show up and do this. So we definitely greatly appreciate that. Obviously, we're always at Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube at GMBMPW. Make sure you're following us there. I'm sure most all of you probably are now. I hope, at least, because I'm not going to shut up about it. I'm going to continue to push it, and that's just how it is. But anyway, we, can't wait to see everybody out there at the Muletown Mania Fan Fest once again, May 11th from 2:30 till 10 o'clock at night. You'll see all your favorite wrestling stars from the area. I mean, man, it's just going to be just going to be a blast. It really is, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, it should be a great time. I'm looking forward to seeing all the people we've talked to throughout the episodes, and I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, man, definitely. I can't wait to, I'm going to start, I might bring the headgear for Omar. I might, try to sell that to the highest bidder.
Autographed.
Plastic Sheik. Yeah. We need to get you one made out of plastic.
You just sweat in it constantly.
Yeah, just constantly be a sweat. But anyway, once again, y'all, we thank you so much for listening, and hope y'all can join us on the 11th in Columbia, Tennessee. If you don't say we didn't warn you. And if you don't say that you tried, because you didn't. If you're not there, we're writing you off for good. Just kidding. But we do appreciate you. And coming up soon, you'll be able to hear the live version of the podcast you didn't show up to. And I hope you know how much you're going to miss if you don't show up. So make sure and be there Saturday, 2:30 p.m., Columbia, Tennessee at the Armory. And it's going to be a blast, man. We can't wait. We have had some cool things coming up on the Wolfie D show before we go. Obviously, we had Black Bart, and then we had the wild and woolly Sam.
Always entertaining Sam Houston.
Yeah, the always entertaining Sam Houston. And, man, he was on fire with that one. So never have I ever thought I would talk to someone who was possibly eaten by cannibals. And yes, if you haven't heard that story, do yourself a favor. Go check it out. It's totally worth it. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then coming up Monday, Jared, Monday on the Wolfie D podcast, we've got Jeff the Crippler Daniels, brother.
Yeah, man. First
crossover the other way, I should say. We had George come from the Wolfie show, but now Jeff's coming over he's going to Raw from SmackDown, right? Since SmackDown's the higher rated show.
I guess so.
Just kidding. But anyway, those were Wolfie's words, actually. Wolfie posted on a post and said, we'll get you on Raw pretty soon, coming over from SmackDown. And I'm like, well, technically, I'll take that.
Technically, SmackDown's getting higher ratings these days.
But anyway, it's always good to hear from Jeff, and he's just as awesome as always, I'm sure. So we thank you all again. Stick around. We just, we got some cool things planned coming up. Got some ideas I'm going to throw at Jared on this long trip we're about to take, and we'll see where it goes. So for the Plastic Sheik, the lady superstar Debbie Combs, I'm Jimmy Street, and this has once again been Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Don't forget.
Oh yeah, dig it
with a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.